Good day. We're going to talk about the tundra ecosystem. Are you aware of tundra or wondering what does the tundra looks like? Tundra ecosystems are treeless regions found in the Arctic and on top of the mountains wherein the climate is cold and windy and rainfall is scant. Tundra lands are covered with snow for much of the year, but summer brings bursts of wildflowers. There are two main types of tundra, which are the alpine and Arctic. Let's talk about first the Arctic tundra. It can be found in high altitude locations such as Antarctica, Canada, Russia, Greenland, Iceland, and Scandinavia, or on land masses above the Arctic Circle. These regions were very cold and temperatures fell below freezing. The next type is the alpine tundra. It is located above the timberline on tall mountains all around the world where trees are unable to grow. The soil in the alpine is well drained in contrast to the Arctic tundra. Now, let's talk about the climate in Arctic and alpine tundra. Winters are extremely cold and dark. There are a couple of weeks when the sun doesn't rise. In alpine tundra, winters are moderate with temperatures that rarely fall below negative 18 degrees Celsius or 0 degrees Fahrenheit, while in Arctic, it is negative 32 degrees Celsius or negative 25 degrees Fahrenheit during the winter months. Fun fact: did you know that tundra is sometimes called a frozen wasteland? Because during winter, plants and trees cannot grow because the surface is frozen and animals die because of the cold or food scarce. Back to the topic. Are you wondering if there is summer in tundra? The answer is yes. There is a brief summer season, which is distinguished less by its slightly warmer temperature and more by the fact that daylight can last for nearly 24 hours at a time. Alpine has more mild climate with summers that are cool and range from 3 to 12 degrees Celsius, while Arctic tundra fluctuates between 4 degrees Celsius. Another fun fact: did you know that permanently frozen soil is called permafrost? It refers to the deeper portions of the soil that are still frozen.
Let's move on to the next topic and talk about how climate is characterized. Around the world, there are 5 distinct types of ecosystems known as biomes. These include the tropical rainforest, the subtropical desert, the boreal forest, the temperate forest, and finally, the tundra itself. However, tundras are the coldest and most harsh of the 5 major terrestrial ecosystems. It covers about 10% of the Earth's surface. It has the coldest ecosystem, a short growing season, inadequate nutrients, and little precipitation. Because of its cold and icy environment, the tundra receives less than 25 centimeters or 10 inches of liquid water as precipitation annually, with approximately 2/3 of that amount coming in the form of summer rain. Permafrost, also known as permanently frozen soil, is a predominant type of soil found in the tundra. This type of soil stays frozen throughout the year, except for a very thin surface layer that thaws during the summer months and allows plant roots to grow. In tundra environments, the soil doesn't have enough of the nutrients that plants need to grow and do well. Because of this, the only way for us to survive in this biome is if we bring enough heavy clothing and materials to craft to generate enough heat for ourselves. Due to the inhospitable conditions that prevail in the tundra, it is almost certain that no one lives there. But despite the harsh conditions, this biome still has a thriving ecosystem that is home to many different types of plants and animals. First, let's talk about the plants in the tundra. Small shrubs, grasses, mosses, sedges, and lichens make up the patchy, low-to-the-ground vegetation found in this biome. All of these plant types are better adapted to withstand the conditions found in the tundra. In tundra ecosystems, the presence of low to tall shrubs and their growth can cause major changes to the structure of the community and have major effects on the diversity of both plants and animals. Tundra animals have also adapted to harsh environments, and they benefit from the brief life of plants and insects during the growing season. Tundra fauna consists of small mammals such as Norway lemmings, Arctic hares, and Arctic ground squirrels, as well as large mammals such as caribou, Arctic foxes, Arctic wolves, snowy owls, and polar bears. Certain mammals hibernate or enter a deep sleep for several months during the winter in order to stay alive. Some of the animals in the area grow thicker fur coats to keep warm in the winter.
Now that we have discussed what the tundra is generally, we'd also like to show you an example of its current state through this video of one in Canada from CTV News.
A new study says permafrost in the Canadian Arctic is melting so fast that it's swallowing the equipment scientists left there to study it. And the research warns that the rapid thaw could dramatically increase the amounts of greenhouse gases released from plants and animals frozen within the tundra. Joining me now is Merit Turetsky, a biologist with the University of Guelph and one of the authors of this study. Merit, thanks for coming on the program. Alarming to say the least. What can you tell us about this study?
Yeah, so let me first explain what permafrost is. It is simply frozen ground that underlies actually most of the Canadian North and most of our country. So more than 60% of Canada nationwide is affected by permafrost. And it can be frozen rock, frozen soil, frozen sand, and it is literally the backbone of northern ecosystems. What we know today, because of all of the scientific research being done in Canada, is that permafrost is thawing much more rapidly than our models are suggesting. So this study was a wake-up call to the whole global community that the North is changing. It's changing very rapidly, much more quickly than we anticipated.
And when you talk about what happens when the permafrost starts to thaw, because when we say melt, people think, oh, it's melting, but it's thawing. But what happens? What's in the permafrost that can cause such emissions that are concerning?
Well, I think that's a great point because, sometimes permafrost contains a lot of frozen water and that water can melt. But actually, permafrost contains a whole lot more. It contains, the former life that used to be on top of the Arctic in these ecosystems that died at the surface and then, got incorporated into the permafrost over time. And that is the material that thaws. That is a lot of old carbon that was lost from the atmosphere thousands and thousands of years ago. And now as this permafrost organic matter is warming up, it's starting to get rotted by microbes and it's being released as greenhouse gas. Again, this is carbon that the atmosphere thought it lost thousands of years ago, and now it's winding its way back into the atmosphere.
As alarming as that clip was, we also conducted a survey for young adults to find out what they knew about this biome. And from these results, we can see that not a lot are familiar about what the tundra is. However, despite that, majority still believe that the effects of climate change on the tundra is a serious problem. That being said, in addition to all of this new information, we'd like to highlight what we can do in our own ways to prevent the permafrost in the biome from further thawing, because right now, it may seem a million miles away to the majority of us. However, regardless of where we live, our small individual contributions to stop climate change can collectively have a significant impact on the world's coldest regions. First is to reduce your carbon footprint, and this can be done in a multitude of ways, such as walking as an alternative to driving, or perhaps cutting down on single-use plastics. There's a lot that you can easily do. We've provided a link to a carbon footprint calculator where you can actually calculate your own carbon emissions. Next is to save energy. This can be done by investing in energy-efficient products, or even just in your home by turning off unnecessary lights, taking shorter showers, and unplugging electronics that aren't in use. Another way is to support local sustainable businesses. By taking the initiative and establishing a commitment to an environmentally sustainable future, these companies aim to make a beneficial impact on the environment and the community. In the photos are a few examples of eco-friendly Filipino businesses, namely Bambike, Katha Lifestyle Store, and Loop Store. And lastly, just like what we've done here, spread awareness in any way you know how. You can talk to friends and family, tweet about it, share posts from credible sources, sign petitions for climate action, and do what you can to ensure that people in power are making good decisions for the environment.